Hi, I'm Amber Harper, and I teach second grade in Oklahoma. And throughout the past 2 years in the NLGO cohort, I have been researching the idea of how can teachers effectively engage students in reading and writing through dialogue. 2 years ago, when I was applying to come to NC State as a graduate student, we had to write a goal statement. And in my goal statement, one of the things that I asked was, how can I help my students engage in reading and writing? They struggle to feel like it's important. How can I connect with them and show them that this is important? And from our very first classes, the idea of talk started coming up over and over. And I thought, okay, this is a great idea. My students love to talk. Why have I not thought of this before myself? We've talked about so many different ways to engage students in reading and writing through conversations, through talking, through content area, through independent reading, through writing. And so these are a couple of things that I've learned through the program. First of all, it's part of the Common Core State Standards and the Oklahoma Academic Standards that we as literacy teachers teach speaking and listening. Our students need to know how to communicate with one another and how to listen actively. So this is a huge part of our standards that we teach. And so through this program, I've learned several different ways to do this in my classroom. One of the first ways that I've connected talk in my classroom is through Socratic seminars. In my very first class in the cohort, I took content area literacy, and in that class we talked about Socratic seminars and Paideia, and the idea really caught my attention, and I thought, this sounds great. I give my students a question that's open-ended after reading lots of information about a topic, and then I let them discuss. I let them build off what they've read and what they know and share their opinions with one another. This is a great way to help them socially discuss the things that we're learning and learn to disagree with each other respectfully. And it's a great way to connect lots of areas of literacy together. They're not just reading, not just writing, but they're reading, writing, speaking, and listening all together. It was great with my fifth grade students when we discussed Christopher Columbus, to hear them talk about the idea of Christopher Columbus being a hero or being a villain, and the way they were able to take the things that we learned and discuss them and argue about them in a very respectful and collegial way. And at the same time, to then look at their own behavior and think, okay, am I being a hero or a villain? The way this conversation not only connected them with content, but with their own lives was really powerful to me. So I knew this was something I would want to continue in my classes. But in January, my husband and I moved to Oklahoma, and I got a job as a second grade teacher. So I go from teaching fifth to second. And it was a little bit of a struggle. There were several parts of my classroom that were very difficult, but I was also enrolled in the Teacher as Researcher class, and we were asked to look for one of those areas in our classes that we wanted to improve. And the thing that made me most frustrated was our silent reading time. I knew it was important, but it seemed like none of my kids did. They were talking and very disengaged instead of reading, and so I thought, okay, something's got to change. And as I did research, I found that social collaboration and interaction could increase children's motivation to read independently, and that's exactly what I found in my classroom. As I encouraged kids to be able to talk with one another and share book recommendations or share things that they were learning with one another, their motivation to read independently skyrocketed. They wanted to be able to read, to engage in their reading, so they would have something to share with their peers. And this doesn't only go for student to student. It's so important for me as their teacher to interact with my students with the things that they're reading through conferences and getting to know them and their likes and dislikes as their readers, as they grow as readers as well. And then also, not only with reading, but with writing, talk has such a huge role to play in writing. For my readers and my writers who sometimes seem reluctant to get started, I've started allowing them to verbally rehearse the things they want to write before they get started. I've allowed them to peer review with one another, where they read their work together, and then they discuss the strengths and weaknesses in their own writing. And this all came from our writing class over the summer, that even though it was online, I really felt like it was a writing community, because we did have the chance to discuss our strengths and weaknesses. And I thought, okay, if we can do this, surely I can try this in my classroom as well. And then we also discussed just the importance of students showing respect for one another in their writing, and showing respect for their own writing, and being able to give constructive feedback and revise together. This has been such a powerful tool in my classroom, because my students have started admiring one another's writing and encouraging one another and showing so much respect for each other's voices, and showing that what they think and what they say really does matter. And that even goes for my students who tend to struggle more than others. When my students struggle, this talk has been just as important for them as for any other student in my class. When readers struggle, we have taken the critical literacy assessment and instruction class through this cohort, and in this class we discovered dialogic instruction, and it's really changed the way that I ask questions in my classroom. No longer asking questions that lead to one answer and I hold the only answer as the teacher and the all-powerful one, but giving my students the chance to talk and share their thoughts and validate what they think, and asking them to dig a little deeper and explain why, giving them the idea that they are powerful, they are readers, they are thinkers, giving them just the knowledge and the encouragement that they can do this themselves. It's what dialogic instruction is all about. And so even with my students who feel like they're not readers, using this kind of instruction, allowing them to talk in the classroom, has given them a sense of power and a sense of self-efficacy in their own reading ability. So in all of these different ways, talk has really affected the way that I teach. So from here on out, I know that I will be a teacher who encourages my students to talk. My classroom may be a little noisier than it was at first, but my students are really more engaged in reading and writing when they get a chance to talk. Thank you.